10 inches of fresh fallen snow, and I'm talking about the desert. What? Huh? The first Sunday in Lent. And depending on what church you go to, you may hear this story about Jesus going out into the wilderness and out into the desert. And I think here's just some thoughts on it this morning. As Christians, we all know what that wilderness and that desert is like, don't we? And maybe some of you are already there and you're in the midst of it. And if you're a Christian for any length of time, chances are you'll spend at least part of it in the wilderness. Maybe that will be 7 hours, 7 days, 7 months, or what I feel like for me in some ways, 7 years. And our entrance into that wilderness might come in many different forms. It might be at the foot of a hospital bed. It might be in a job that demands more than you can give, or a job that you're dying in and you just don't feel it's about your purpose. It might be a job that hands you a pink slip and your paycheck one Friday. But the wilderness comes through also fractured relationships, the funeral of a loved one who died too soon, the tragic sudden death that many of us experience in our lives and families. It can come in chronic illness. It can come from moving from a place you loved or a job you treasured to a job that you hate. It might be any one of those things, or none of those things, or more than those things, all at the same time even. It might just be that you find faith difficult in the face of so much doubt, and we enter the wilderness. And I'm even curious that the wilderness and the desert was often the place where people would go out to seek God. And Jesus is coming fresh off his high experience of being affirmed as a beloved son of God, child of God. And from that, he goes out into the wilderness, maybe to get in touch in a deeper way, to see and sense that it's really true, even in the midst of difficulty. But one way or another, we all find ourselves in the midst of the desert eventually. Disorientation, confusion, depression, doubt, despair, dismay, whatever it is. And I think there's some lies that we believe in the desert. In fact, the word for Satan, or the devil in this passage, is diabolos, but it actually means slanderer. And whether it's an external voice or an internal voice that's our slanderer, that tries to get us to believe the lies, there's lies that we encounter when we go out into the desert. And one of them is, I think, believing that God is not with us. And we go through that dark night of the soul. And I remember Mother Teresa used to pray. She was going through the wilderness, and she prayed, calling God the absent one. But I think it doesn't mean that we've done anything wrong, that we're in the desert. Can you and I take some comfort in that? We may be led out there by God, or God seeing us through. I think we believe the lie also that God he doesn't love us when we're in the desert. That couldn't be further from the truth. I think it was Teresa of Avila who said, or Julian of Norwich, a mystic, who said when she was struggling, God, if this is how you treat your friends, no wonder you have so few of them. Don't disbelieve the truth that God loves us even when we're in the desert. And then we often believe the lie that other things can satisfy in the desert. We also believe the lie about who we are. We believe the stories, external or internal. And the loudest voice is often my own voice in those times when I beat myself up thinking I'm unworthy, unloved, not good enough, not talented enough, not loving enough. But here it is. The stories about the wilderness aren't stories of temptation, either resisting it or triumphing over it, I believe. Rather, they are stories of identity and remembering in the hardest times of our life, the times we want to be out of and wish we weren't going through, remembering in those times theology and identity, who God is and who we are. And Jesus was out in the desert asking himself the question about what it meant to be Jesus and who he really was and who God really was. So that's the great temptation, really, isn't it? That we all believe those lies, and whether they come from us or they come from our peers or our parents or our pain or our problems or pressure, the lie that we are something other than beloved sons and daughters of God. My timer's going off, so I'm coming to the end. Don't May you and I, take a breath, Bill. May you and I, in the desert, in our deserts, not doubt in the dark what God has shown us in the light. We are beloved sons and daughters of God. May you know that through this Lent and every day and every moment of your life. So, until next time, may you live all the days of your life.